What's up everyone, how are you all? Today we are back with another blazing Naruto story. What if Naruto has black wing? If you enjoy then please like, share and do comments, and also check the description to original creator of this beautiful creation. It's been 5 months since Sasuke has been brought back to the village when he tried to join Orochimaru. The trial was pathetic. He has been sentenced for only 3 months house arrest and watched by the Anbu for 1 week. They say the reason Sasuke tried to run away was because of the curse seal. While Sasuke was doing his time, Sakura kept visiting him daily, making him lunch, with the box and the rice and the little red cherry. Kakashi would go to his house every day for personal training, and where was Naruto in all this? He was in the hospital due to some broken bones and a slowly healing lung. Kyuubi managed to get rid of the hole, but the lung was still a long way to go from being healed completely. Kakashi and Sakura only come visit only once every couple weeks, hardly staying for more than 10 minutes. On the 5th month Naruto was completely healed but was to stay 1 day in the hospital. Naruto was still awake in the dead of night, staring in at the ceiling thinking the events that happened. Each second he thinks about the past slowly angers him deep inside. He was the one who bring back Sasuke and yet no one thanked him. He was the one who saved the village from Gaara when he went psycho. He was the one who deserves a lot for what he did for this village. I'm so sick of it, growled Naruto as he silently drifted into his dreams. Before he fell asleep a flash of white circled around his black pupil before his eyes closed. Village gates. Damn, I'm tired, said a Junin standing guard. Don't worry, only 30 more minutes and the next shift comes, says another Junin standing watch. A few moments later a tall figure walked out of the forest. Halt, what is your purpose here? Commanded one of the guards. The man did not answer and with a blink of an eye he knocked out the guards with a tap on their necks and just moved on. Hokage office. Tsunade was working quite well, and as in working I mean sleeping, and as in well I mean sleeping well due to the amount of sake she drank. And this was all disturbed with a knock on the door. Tsunade immediately woke up with a jolt, hiding her precious under her desk, and said slightly nervous, "Come in." The door opened up and a coated figure came in the office. Tsunade has not seen this man before. He was wearing a blue coat and pants with a flame design climbing up his leg. "Who are you?" ordered Tsunade, ready to throw a few kunai up his ass if he does anything. The man removed his hood to reveal his pitch black hair and eyes. His face surprised Tsunade so much she started to sweat. "Why you're back?" she manages to say to him. "Hello Tsunade, I came here for my grandson," said the man. "Now's not the time. Jin Kazama," said Tsunade in a serious tone. "Oh, I believe so Tsunade. I've heard from Jiraiya what's been going on since I left 20 years ago." Tsunade made a mental note to take those kunai, hide them in Jiraiya's colon. "What did he tell you?" questioned Tsunade. "Everything that happened. Orochi Jackson's betrayal, my son Hokage, the Kyuubi, the Uchiha massacre, the little Uchiha turd trying to get raped by Orochi Jackson, the birth of my grandson and the life he had to put up with. Where is he?" yelled Jin with such anger that some people in the village in hearing range pissed themselves. "I cannot give you that information," replied Tsunade. "What did you say?" said Jin in a "I'm not happy and will kill the closest thing" mood. "Naruto is a shinobi of Konoha, and if he goes AWOL then he would be classified as a missing nin. Naruto is my grandson, and if you don't tell me where he is I'll grab another tailed demon. Take the very ground that holds Konoha and fire it up that demon's ass." Jin calmed himself and spoke again. "You know he's at that age when it starts activating." What Jin said made Tsunade shook with terror. "Oh god. I completely forgot about it." "Tell me where he is," said Jin with a serious tone. "Alright, I'll tell you, but it has to look like a kidnap so he won't become a missing nin," Tsunade instructed. "I'll tell you where he is at." Jin raised his hand and said, "I already sense where he is. The bloodline is activating," said Jin nervously. "Good luck," said Tsunade to before Jin left with a blinding speed. Right after he left, Jiraiya poofed in front of Tsunade asking sarcastically. He seemed polite after all these years. "Yeah, tell me about it," replied Tsunade. "Hey Jiraiya, you dropped something," said Tsunade. "Oh really, what?" said Jiraiya, bending down with his rear in range. Tsunade grabbed a couple of kunai and chuckled very sinisterly. "This will teach you for going behind my back." "What?" questioned Jiraiya while he turned around. But it was too late, everyone heard these disturbing words. The pain. Konoha Hospital. Naruto was sleeping peacefully, unable to hear a thing in the real world, not even the sound of the room door creaking open as a man who would be known as a life-saving medic nin. But this medic nin was not doing anything life-saving, quite the opposite. He slowly walked up to Naruto with a very sharp operation knife thing. Please someone tell me what it's called, and had venomous intent to kill Naruto. Looks like you won't going anywhere but hell, demon, said the medic nin with revenge all over his face. He raises the operation knife thing right above Naruto's heart, moments later rush it right down on Naruto. The knife was inches away from its goal before the hand suddenly immediately stop. The knife only touched the blanket. The medic was shocked to see a hand grabbing bone crushingly hard on his arm. The medic nin felt a large grip on his neck. He was sweating bullets when he heard a chilling voice. Disgrace. Right after that a faint snap was heard. The medic nin was dead. The man who did it was none other than Jin Kazama. Jin looked at Naruto with sympathy and sorrow. He placed his hand on the boy's cheek. Thoughts were running through his mind. This child is my grandson. Oh, what I would do to let you live a normal life. He stared at Naruto for a few minutes and decided it was time to go. Made sure Naruto won't wake up by sticking a seal on his forehead. Jin lifted Naruto on his back and opened the window. Time to leave, Naruto Kazama, and with that jumped out of the hospital. Somewhere not far from the gate, Kakashi was walking back from a mission talking to Pakun. He was lonely, so he summoned the "please shake my paws cause they're so soft" mutt. So Kakashi, how's Naruto been in the hospital? Asked Pakun. He's been doing just fine the last time I saw him, but something's different about him, replied Kakashi. Oh really, what is it? Well, when I saw him his eyes were strange, said Kakashi as he flipped a page of his porno book. His eyes seemed filled with something I would never expect him to feel, said a pondering Kakashi. Kakashi stopped in the middle of the forest and said, his eyes were filled with anger, anguish, and pain. It was silent for a couple of minutes as they walk. I think I have something to do with that, Kakashi said to Pakun as he felt the poisonous feeling known as guilt ran through his veins. Now why would you say that, Kakashi, said Pakun as he raised an eyebrow. I've been thinking that I hadn't fared to my team, Pakun, said a now sad Kakashi. I have taught Sasuke the Chidori, Sakura Genjutsu, and I only trained Naruto to climb a tree with chakra. I need to make it up to him, said Kakashi as closed his book. You know he's not a cripple or anything, you can make it up to him by teaching him a new jutsu, replied Pakun. Kakashi lit up with the idea. You know Pakun, you're right, when Naruto gets out of the hospital I'll teach him how to make his own jutsu. You're a smart dog, you know that. Thanks, will you shake my paw? Village gates. Kakashi and Pakun walked out of the forest and saw two Anbu questioning lifting two guards. What happened? Asked Kakashi. The bear-masked Anbu looked at Kakashi and said, we were reported that there was an assault, Kakashi-sama, and that someone went in the village, said the raven-masked Anbu pointing at fresh footprints. An intruder, huh? Said Kakashi. Kakashi, I smell something that smells like the footprints and it's coming this way and it smells like, Pakun paused. What? Questioned Kakashi. It smells like Naruto with him, exclaimed Pakun with wide eyes. What? Yelled Kakashi. Kakashi-sama. Look, said the bear-masked Anbu pointing at the sky. Everyone looked up and saw a man jump in the air with an orange lump on high back. Kakashi immediately who it was, Naruto. Without a second thought Kakashi went after Naruto and the hooded man. Forest. Jin sensed Kakashi and sped up his speed. Kakashi was not far behind and after 45 minutes of chasing, Jin finally decided to take care of Kakashi. Jin landed in an open field waiting for Kakashi to catch up. Kakashi had finally landed and pulled out his Sharingan. Who are you and why are you taking Naruto? Demanded Kakashi. Jin looked at Kakashi and replied, my name is of no concern, and as for the child. Jin laid Naruto on the ground gently and finished his sentence, he's coming with me. Jin then stretched one arm and a smoke-like substance seeped out of his back and slowly took form of a black wing. What the hell, was all that Kakashi could say before he heard. Kazama Keita. Akuma Hain Shrunken no Jutsu. With a single flap of his mighty wing, Hundreds of razor feathers flew straight at feathers impaled the target, but all of the sudden puffed and turned out to be a log now mulch. What goo? Jin was suddenly stabbed through the chest with one of Kakashi's chidori. It's over, said Kakashi with killer intent. For you, replied Jin smirking. All of the sudden Jin turned red and exploded into a static field. Kakashi was zapped with a powerful jolt and landed on the ground flinching. Why are you talking Naruto? Kakashi managed to get out. The real Jin appeared from behind a tree and answered, like I said earlier, that's none of your concern. Jin then sensed others on the way to the scene, so he left. Kakashi was trying to get up but to no avail. Naruto, I'm sorry, and it all went black. The group stopped and immediately spotted Kakashi. He not moving, said Asuma. Guy lifted Kakashi in the same pose he did in the manga. Everyone was disturbed to no end. Oh my god, thought Kurenai. What the hell, thought Pakun. Now that's just gay, thought Asuma. Yosh, I'll bring him back to Konoha in no time, and thank God when he finished he was gone without a trace. Border of Fire Country. Jin stopped in a small clearing in the forest and laid Naruto on the ground. He took off the seal so Naruto would wake in the morning. Sleep well kid, tomorrow bootcamp Jin style begins. Naruto was sleeping like a baby, not even noticing a thing. Naruto's mindscape. Naruto heard the sound of water dripping as he walked down the hallway. When he made it down the hall, he called out, "Hey stupid fox, where are you?" The cage was silent until a bone-chilling laugh was heard. The demon opened his eyes and smiled at Naruto, fangs and all. You didn't even notice it, did you? Kyuubi asked with a grin. Notice what? Retorted Naruto. Kyuubi laughed at this, which made Naruto angrier. Why are you laughing? Tell me. Kyuubi calmed himself down and said deviously, that's something you have to find out yourself. And with that Naruto was blown away by a powerful gust, and it all went white. Konoha Hospital. Kakashi groaned as he slowly awoke. He opened an eye to see the Asuma, Kurenai, Guy, Sasuke, Sakura, and Tsunade. Jiraiya wasn't here due to surgery on his poop hole, thanks to Tsunade. You're up, smiled Tsunade. Wow, what happened? Kakashi asked. It suddenly came all back to him. Kakashi placed a hand on his face in shame and said, I couldn't save him. Everyone knew what he was talking about except for Sasuke and Sakura. What are you talking about? Asked Sakura. Naruto was kidnapped, answered Tsunade. What? Yelled the two genin. A man has kidnapped Naruto and we have no idea what his plan is with him, explained Tsunade. Was it Itachi? Questioned Sasuke. No, it was someone stronger, whispered Kakashi. No way, Itachi is at cage level, pondered Guy. We should call in a squad and go after him, said Sakura. Quote, I'll send a squad to see if they can find anything, replied Tsunade. Gather up the rest of Rookie 9 so I can give you all your assignment. Hi, and with that Sasuke and Sakura left. Fire Country border. Naruto eyes slowly opened to see light piercing through the trees and heard bird chirping. Where am I? Yawned Naruto, and how did I get out of the hospital? That would be my doing. Naruto looked up to see Jin on a tree branch with a fishbone in his mouth. What? Who the hell are you? Why did you take M? Naruto was hit with a cookfish in his mouth that Jin thrown at him. Put a cork in it, finish eating and I'll explain everything to you. 2 minutes later Naruto was done with the fish and ready for answers. Okay, now I'll ask again. Naruto was about to yell until Jin covered his mouth and said, if you yell one more time I'll rip out your tongue. Naruto was quiet. Okay, how do I say this? Naruto, I am your grandfather. Everything was quiet. The information was processing in Naruto's mind. Beep. Question, Naruto asked in a normal tone. What? Jin asked while having a finger in his ear. I said question. Jin ears were bleeding. Okay, I hear you. What is it? How can you be my grandfather? I'm your dad's dad, replied Jin. I mean, how can you be? You look young. Why thank you, Jin said. Answer the question, demanded Naruto. Alright, I'll tell you. Sit down and shut up, this may take a while. Hokage office. The rest of Rookie 9 was present and their senseis as well. Thank you for being here on time. As all of you are aware, last night Naruto Uzumaki was kidnapped. Everyone was shocked to hear Naruto was kidnapped. He was the one who changed them all into better people. Kiba's not blinded with pride. Neji's no longer holds a grudge against the main branch, and Hinata found strength in herself to never give up. Hokage-sama, why did the guy take Naruto? Questioned Neji. Tsunade knew she had to throw them off so Naruto won't be found, so she created a plan that would surely buy them sometime, but it also means breaking one of Naruto's greatest secrets. How many of you know about the Kyuubi? Asked Tsunade. What does that have to do about anything? Yelled Kiba. The Junin knew what Tsunade is about to do and were nervous about the outcome. Tsunade closed her eyes. 13 years ago the Kyuubi attacked and nearly destroyed the village. If nothing was done, Konoha would have fallen. The Yondaime was believed to have killed the demon, so you all wouldn't have hated him. The genin were all silent and the only person who spoke was Hinata. Hate who? Tsunade-sama. Tsunade opened her eyes and said, the truth of how the Kyuubi was defeated was that the Yondaime sacrificed a baby, but not just any baby. His son Naruto Kazama. Okay, sit down and shut up, this might take a while, ordered Jin. Naruto sat down and waited for Jin to continue speaking. I am Jin Kazama, the father of Arashi Kazama, your father, and fourth Hokage. Naruto was stunned. His father, the Hokage, his idol, the one he swears to surpass. He's my father, croaked. After a few moments of silence, Naruto spoke again. My own father put the Kyuubi inside of me. Naruto stared at the ground, saddened. Jin stared at his grandchild with regret. He probably should have took it easy with that part. I can understand your pain, you feel betrayed. You hate yourself, don't you? Naruto just stared at the ground. Suddenly a hand was on his head. He looked up to see Jin smiling at him. Don't worry kid, your father would never hate you, nor you should hate him. He wanted you to become a hero, not a monster. Naruto sniffed a little while rubbing his eyes. So, what's your story? Asked Naruto. Jin sat down lazy-like and sighed. I was born 59 years ago. Flashback. 7-year-old Jin ran to his mother holding a picture he made for his mother, Jin Kazama. Mommy look, called Jin. His mother looked at the picture. It was a picture of him, his mother, and his father who he never met. This brought tears to Jin's eyes. She hugged Jin and silently cried. What's wrong, mommy? Jin asked innocently. Nothing, sweetie. Mommy's just happy, said Jin as she wiped her eyes. How about you and me make some rice balls? Jin leaped in glee. Yay. 12 years later. That day was a sad day for Jin. His mother was in the emergency room due to an assault. Anna was in the waiting room scared of the outcome. He had waited for 3 hours until the red light over the door turned off. Jin saw it and immediately stood up. A few moments later the medic Nin came out with a face full of sorrow and sadness. What happened? Is she okay? Jin pleaded. The medic Nin looked at Jin and said, I'm sorry son, but she's gone. Jin fell to his knees and spaced out with a terrified look on his and just stayed there as the tears ran down his cheeks. Later that day, Jin was consumed rage. He was at the training grounds pummeling a boulder to rubble. His mother was the only family he ever had and now, she's gone. Jin screamed as he landed the final blow on the stone. When his fist made contact with the large rock, it went through it like punching wax paper. The boulder had been turned to mere dust. As the dust faded, you could see that Jin's nails have grown and sharpened. And his teeth have grown fangs. Jin grabbed his head and yelled in pain. Huage. In a split second, Jin had horns growing out of his head. His eyes were pitch black except for a white circle that has appeared where the border of where his pupil and iris met. His muscles have grown and became rock hard. Black markings have appeared on his torso that look like small flames and one on his forehead that looked a demon's a devil's eye. Jin screamed at the sky, which has suddenly changed from a peaceful sky to a raging storm. A force of mighty crimson lightning has escaped right out of Jin's body, blowing away everything in a quarter-mile radius. Huage. Jin slammed his fist onto the ground, which caused the earth to shake some parts of Konoha. Jin breathes heavily as a dark shadowy smog seep out of his back. Jin screamed as the smog begins to take shape into a pair of feathery wings which molted non-stop. Jin, Jin looked over his left to spot one of his closest friends, Sarutobi, the future third Hokage. Jin stared at Sarutobi and whispered, "Sarutobi, feel the wrath?" Sarutobi was confused at the sight of his 10-year younger friend. "What?" he says, raising an eyebrow. "Feel the wrath? Ooh, FFFFFGOODDD. Jin charged at Sarutobi in a flash of speed. Sarutobi, with no alternative, did a few hand seals and yelled, "Tsuchi Keita! Jari Doragon Sokubaku no Jutsu!" In a split second, 4 dragons made out of dense gravel came out of the ground and made their way to Jin. Each dragon bit one of Jin's limbs, not letting go. RRRRAGGHHH, ha 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 ha. Jin laughed maniacally as a surge of red electricity flew out of his body and destroyed the stone dragons. What th ga? Sarutobi was cut off by an iron grip around his neck. "HAHAHAHAHAHAH. I will show you the true meaning of hell," said Jin to Sarutobi, who was hanging in the air by the neck. "Jin, please, contour yourself," Sarutobi pleaded. Jin just laughed as he charged his fist with electricity. Jin was about to blow Sarutobi's head off, but just then someone yelled, "Mizu Keita! Kori Jouten Gokusha no Jutsu!" Jin looked behind him to see a large swirl of snow. Jin let go of Sarutobi, who jumped out of the way. The snow encircled Jin. Jin suddenly felt ice forming on his feet. Jin tried to break his feet free, but to no avail as it climbed slowly up his leg. Sarutobi just stared as Jin was slowly inked with ice, which after freezing all over Jin grown into a giant glacier. "You alright, monkey?" Sarutobi looked at the direction of the voice to spot his former sensei, the now Nidaime Hokage, and his older brother, who was former Hokage. "Taikaimaru sensei, something's wrong with Jin. He's turned into some kind of monster," explained Sarutobi. "We see that, we got to calm him down or who knows what might happen," replied Jiraiya, former first Hokage. After Jiraiya spoke, a faint but noticeable roar came from the glacier. The glacier then exploded into pieces. The 3 shinobi were blown away and being cut by the pieces of ice. They were blown a few yards away. They got back up to see Jin walking up to them chuckling evilly. "Taikaimaru Sarutobi, you distract him while I place this on him," ordered Jiraiya, showing them a chakra gem necklace that looked the exact same as the one he gave his granddaughter, Tsunade, on her 5th birthday. "Hi," the two replied as they got into fighting stance. Jiraiya in flash vanished. Sarutobi and Taikaimaru simultaneously thrown 10 shuriken each and form a hand seal. "Shuriken Kage Bunshin no Jutsu," they yelled. Just then countless shuriken appeared and headed for Jin. Jin only smiled as he lifted a slightly closed hand. "Is that the best you got?" Jin mocked as he opened his hand, releasing a powerful force of wind. The shuriken either poof out of existence or were sent right back at Taikaimaru and Sarutobi. Sarutobi did a few hand seals and yelled, "Tsuchi Keita! Doro Cave no Jutsu!" Sarutobi then puked out a bunch of mud which immediately took form of a large wall that defended them from the shuriken. They suddenly heard a voice right behind them, "Fast move." They turned around to see Jin with his arms crossed and with a familiar face below his right foot that was none other than Jiraiya, unconscious and beaten. "But not fast enough," said Jin as he charged at them at high speed and punched them both in the gut. They flew quite far and landed very unpleasantly. They were trying to stand but could not. "Ha ha 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 ha, welcome to oblivion," screamed Jin as his markings on his forehead began to glow. "Mokuzai Keita! Mori Genoseido no Jutsu!" Wood immediately shoot right out of the ground and entangled Jin as hard as an anaconda. "What?" raged Jin as he looked over to see the supposed Jiraiya, which almost at once turned to sawdust. The real Jiraiya popped out of the ground and quickly placed the necklace around Jin's neck. He did a few unique hand seals and slammed a palm on Jin's chest. "Kyusho Keita! Akuma Jumai no Jutsu!" Glowing green markings appeared on Jin's chest and started zapping Jin with green electricity. "Ah!" Jin screamed in agony as his horns, fangs, claws, and wings slowly retracted. Jin fainted. The trees began to go back to the ground, leaving Jin unconscious on the floor. Jiraiya fell to his knees exhausted and breathing heavily. "Hey bro, you okay?" Taikaimaru called as he limped carrying an out like a light Sarutobi. Jiraiya looked at Taikaimaru with a serious look and replied, Taikaimaru, I think it's time we tell Jin about him. Taikaimaru's face became just as serious and said, yeah, same here. Jiraiya lifted Jin and made their way to the hospital. Jin groans as he slowly opened his now normal eyes to see a white room with a small table, a window, and a door. What happened? Jin pondered for a few minutes until the door opened. He looked at that direction to see his former sensei Jiraiya. Jiraiya-sensei, what happened? Jin asked. Jiraiya could only look at Jin with a sad look and answered, Jin, we need to talk. An hour later. Jin was speechless, he stared at his hands in disbelief. So you're telling me I turned into some monster and nearly killed Sarutobi and Taikaimaru? Jin questioned. Jiraiya could only nod his head. Jin, there's something I need to discuss with you, concerning your father. This shocked Jin. He had never heard anything about his father except what his mother told him, which was that he was a strong man. You know about my father, Jin said in disbelief. Your father was Kazuya of the Mishima clan. What? Jin yelled. He was aware of the Mishima clan as of everyone else in his generation. The Mishima clan was by far the strongest clan in Konoha history. They were stronger than the Uchiha clan, the Hyuga clan, and so on. The one thing that made them so powerful was their blood. Jin started to sweat. Their blood? Yes, their blood was their power. The devil gene. It was silent until Jin broke it. What is the devil gene? Jiraiya looked straight into Jin's eye and replied, the blood that could break all mortal limits. They can transform into powerful devil-like creatures. They were all ranked. The branch was weak compared the main branch, which hardly ever use it due to the insanity they get from transforming. Jin froze as the information sank in. Your father was the leader of the Mishima clan, the strongest of them all. He was the only known man to master the devil within him, but alas, his heart was not pure. He committed something that was unforgivable. Jin was filled with excitement, the bad kind. There's two ways it can go. Jiraiya looked at the floor and said words that scarred Jin bad. He slaughtered his own clan and tried to destroy Konoha. Jin was dropped dead stunned. Hewh, what? Jin croaked. Jiraiya looked at him with regret. I'm sorry, Jin. I wished I never had to tell you. But after what happened back there I had no choice. Who? Jin asked. Huh? Jiraiya replied. Who killed him? Jiraiya stared at the ground. Your mother, she was the only one who he couldn't kill. It pained her so much to murder her true love. But she earlier found out that she was having you and made the ultimate sacrifice to give you a good life. At this moment Jin was losing it. Emotions went multiple rounds around his head. Anger, betrayal, sadness, self-hate. He was having a mental breakdown. He looked around to see his kunai bag on the table with one hanging out slightly. He quickly grabs the kunai and aimed at his chest. Before he could end it all, a sudden hand stopped the kunai. It was Jiraiya. His eyes were bleeding tears as much as blood was bleeding from his hand. He stared at Jin and said, you are nothing like him. You're more of a son to me than you are ever to him, Jin. Jin broke down crying as Jiraiya gave him a fatherly hug. Next day, Jun's funeral was small. The people who came was Jin, Jiraiya, Taikaimaru, Sarutobi, who immediately forgave Jin after hearing the dramatic story, and some other people who were friends of Jun. Each person placed flower on Jun's grave and shed some tears. That night, after the funeral, Jin and Sarutobi hit the bar having a few drinks, and I use the word very loosely. As Jin and Sarutobi had a pointless drinking contest, a 10-year-old Jiraiya barged in bar and raced to Sarutobi with a large stack of writing paper stapled together. Sensei, sensei, the little arrowed tadpole screamed. Yes, Jiraiya, what is it? Sarutobi managed to say in a sober tone. Sensei, I finished the first chapter of my soon-to-be world-famous book, Look. Alright, keep it down, replied the monkey dude as he read the 15 pages. After 1 minute of super reading speed, blood exploded from his nose so fast he went in the atmosphere. Damn, was all Jin could say. Hey kid, let me see that. Jiraiya handed him the blood-covered stack. As he read it his eyes widened. He felt many things: suspense, drama, mystery, intense passion, the clean and dirty kind. And his pants felt tighter. He grabbed the child by the shoulders and whispered, Kid, you're a god. Jiraiya grinned triumphantly and scratched his nose. Right after this, a fireball hit smack dab on at the bar. As the smoke cleared they could see a well-done Sarutobi who is in need of blood, and lots of it. 2 years have passed, lots of things have changed. Team Arrow Flachist pedophile in training have all become Chunin, the death of Jiraiya, natural causes. Meaning it was his time. He was 62 years old, why? 'Cause I say so. And Taikaimaru is 48. Jin, just like his father, mastered the bloodline, except not evil and shit. He also obtained the first published ICHA Paradise. As Jin was having a midnight stroll after a simple rank mission, forgot to mention he was a Junin, reading his all-glory book. As Kogome bent down and beep. The beep of his beep, gotta keep it teen-age. His mind was cut off by a scream. He searched for the noise to see a woman around her early 20s on the ground as a drunk Chunin walked up to her. That's what you get for not thanking me for my compliment of your ass. The woman was beautiful. She had ocean blue eyes, golden sun hair and a nice evenly body which could show her true potential if she wasn't in dirty clothing. Imagine the jutsu except she had one ponytail, no whiskers and not naked. Please sir, leave me alone, she begged. The drunken man grinned and replied, oh I don't think so little lady, I deserve a little something for that slap on the face, pointing at the mark on his cheek. He was about to grab her until Fist socked him in the gut at high speed sending him all the way into space where he died like any guy who dies in space. I have no idea how they die except for suffocating. She looked up to see her, knight in shining armor. It was none other than Jin. He bent down at eye level and asked, you okay miss? All she could do was blush at how handsome he was and how muscular he was. She snapped out of it when she felt a sudden tap on her head. Hello, Jin called. She quickly got up and tried to wipe the dirt of her clothing. He, thank you so much mister, and Jin replied, not a problem. Unaware that they each had a similar thought in their heads. Hello hottie. They two ever since spent time together who eventually became a couple and later bomb. In 2 years they became husband and wife. And like all married couples, there were rules. Jin was not allowed to read any more ICHA books but it didn't bother him all that much. Let's just say she knew how to use her tongue. 2 months later, Jin walked in the door and called, honey, I'm home. Jin's wife, who was unusually excited today, jumped on Jin and gave him a big kiss. I got great news. I can read Icha-chan again? And for that he got a fist on the head. Even better, she said in a musical tone. She whispered it into his ear and right on cue, Jin fainted. Jin slowly opened his eyes to find himself in bed and seeing Okami, his wife which I just named, doing some laundry. Jin lifted himself off his bed and walking towards his soulmate while rubbing the back of his neck. What happened? Jin asked, not remembering anything. Okami smiled at him and replied, I just told you the good news, remember? It all came back to Jin what she told him. You save a bunch of money by switching to Geico, do not own, Jin exclaimed. You all thought she was going to have a baby, didn't you? Okami grinned cheerfully, and honey, Okami called. Yes, Jin said. And you know what? I'm pregnant. You were right. It all went black for Jin again. 9 months later. 9 months passed like a second, which kind of did. Jin and Okami went through the whole routine for preparing a baby. They got the room, the training, the raging temper of a pregnant woman and all the stuff I don't understand yet. Today was the day Okami's water broke. Jin raced her to the hospital at high speed. Waiting room. Jin was walking back and forth repeating the same word in his head. Let it be a boy, let it be a boy. Please Cammy, let it have a beep. You could tell that all he wanted was a boy. A few minutes later Sarutobi came in. Hey Jin, how's she doing? And right on cue they heard this. Where is he? Where's Jin? Somebody give me a knife so I can cut off his balls for what he did to me. Jin and Sarutobi just stared at the door which was separating them from hell. Does that answer your question? Jin replied. Sarutobi just stared at the door and said, remember to put me in your will. A couple of hours and screams later the doc came out and said, congratulations Mr. Kazama, it's a boy, yes. Jin raced past the doctor to see his son. He walked in slowly to see his wife holding a blonde, blue-eyed baby just cooing away. Okami just saw Jin and smiled. Jin, Look at our baby boy, she said in a soft tone. Jin stared at his child and could do nothing but smile with pride. What's his name? Jin asked. That's your call, I already did my part. She handed the baby to Jin. Jin held his son and said, his name is Arashi Kazama. Flashback ends, finally. Hey, don't stop now, it was getting good, complained Naruto. I'll finish it later, right now we got some training to do. Let's get started with training, said Jin. Naruto leapt in joy. Finally, let's get go. Jin then waved a finger and replied, whoa, first things first. Jin pulled out a scroll out of his pocket and opened it. What's that? Asked Naruto, examining the strange writing. Jin pointed at what looked like a circle. Put your left hand here. Naruto did what he was told. He placed his hand in the center. Jin then made a seal with one hand and then the writing on the scroll started glowing. What the aagg? Naruto felt a surge of pain and saw that the writing was climbing up his arm. The writing slowly went across Naruto's chest and slowly to his legs. The writing was wrapped around Naruto's body. What the hell? Said Naruto, whose is now on the ground unable to move. The markings stopped spreading and immediately faded. A few seconds Naruto noticed the pain stopped. He got back up and looked everywhere to see nothing's different. Hey old man, what did you do? Asked a confused Naruto. Jin smiled and replied, I placed a seal on you. A seal for what? Complained Naruto. A seal for the bloodline, said Jin in a serious tone. Naruto then remembered about the bloodline and its power. So, this is to lock the devil gene? Naruto questioned Jin. No, it limits the bloodline into 3 levels. Jin lifted the sleeve of his left arm to show a kanji on his forearm. The kanji looks like an exotic designed Z with a smaller Z in the middle. Go to my profile to see it under Jin Kazama. This is the mark of the seal which holds down your devil gene. It was made by my sensei who was known as the Shodem, first Hokage. Jin's face then became very serious. Now Naruto, I have to ask you this before we go on. If you want to train with me you need leave Konoha for a while. If not you can go back. Naruto was shocked, him leaving Konoha. His friends, Kakashi, Jiraiya, Iruka and Tsunade. He was so confused about what to do until he remembered the way they treated him and never did anything for him after all he did. He took off his headguard which symbolizes him as a Konoha ninja, placed it on a tree and stabbed it with a kunai in the center of the leaf sign. Let's get started on training. 3 years later in Konoha. Tsunade was working on some documents while having some sake but was unable to concentrate due to it being officially 3 years. Jin has taken Naruto. He could have written once in a while, thought Tsunade as she stamped her last document for today. She remembered the way of how everyone reacted when she told Naruto's identity and secret. They were all shocked to hear about Naruto being the container for the Kyuubi, but what made them feel really guilty about was that he was the Yondaimi's son. They now know why Naruto was hated and treated like dirt. Not even their senseis knew about Naruto's father and it made them feel guilty as well. The one who felt the guiltiest was Kakashi. His student was his sensei's son and he was as much as guilty as everyone else who believes Naruto to be the demon. Tsunade tricked them by saying that the Anbu found tracks of the guy who took Naruto. That was actually made by Jiraiya after he didn't have to sit on a donut cushion anymore. Those are what people who just had surgery on the rear have to sit. Rookie 9, Kakashi, Guy and his team, Kurenai and Asuma all volunteered to go on the search. The fake search was going as planned so Tsunade didn't worry much. She misses Naruto so much. Deep down Naruto was more of a son to her than a brother and it pains her not to see him grow up to a man. She looks down at Konoha and sees everyone else grow up. The rookies just started on dating. Sasuke and Sakura started dating. He's not the Avenger anymore. He actually cares for others and made an oath to find his brother, Naruto. Hinata has grown from a shy girl to a strong-minded girl with amazing skills. She still cares for Naruto but now is fond of Kiba who she started dating. Asuma finally asked Kurenai out and now engage. Even Kakashi started dating Anko after he got out of his depression. Now hell has officially frozen over. She just wants to see a glimpse of Naruto and how much he has grown. I wonder how you're doing, Naruto. Storm Country. The sky is covered with pitch black clouds. The skies were so dark the only light available was the white jagged blades of thunder. The land is a wasteland with nothing but dead trees, animal bones and lots of proofs of major earthquakes. It would have all been beautiful and full of life if the skies and land wouldn't have been so vicious. There was nothing alive except for a tall figure just standing there letting the powerful bullets of water hit his skin. He was standing straight with arms in front of his body slightly arched together with his fists not touching each other. The figure looked at what was in front of him, which was a small mountain made by the constant earthquakes. Slowly he shifted his left foot forward and his right backward, lifted his left hand, slightly straightened it and sticking his hand out with his hand opened revealing his palm. His other arm was bent the other way with his fist still intact. The man exhaled before revealing slight killing intent. His fist was being covered with blue electricity which after a moment disappeared. He then in a speed faster than sound took one step and sends his fist forward head on at the mountain. When his fist made contact, the mountain was given huge cracks as big as Gamabunta. The man pulled his fist out of the scarred rock and then straightens himself. "Dude, that hurt," said the figure as he slightly waved his hand. "You got a long way to go, Naruto." Naruto looked at the direction of the voice to see his granddad who popped out of nowhere. Naruto has changed dramatically. He now wears baggy black pants with thick streaks of dark red coming down on each side, a sleeveless shirt that was tight enough to show his newly acquired muscles with the same design. His hair was a lot more spikier and all the way to his upper back in a bandage ponytail, black gloves without fingertips. His cheek markings thickened and has the same mark on his arm like Jin. Not only did his taste in clothing change, his personality took a big step. He is now laid back, easygoing, and talks like a high school kid. Kids grow up so fast, don't they? "Hey, I almost got it," Naruto replied in a lazy manner. Jin chuckled a little. He watched his grandson grew into a strong, but lazy, teenager. "Well, I'll give you credit since Kazama-style karate is an extremely difficult martial arts style. Get some rest." "Already on it," Naruto said as took out an Ichi Paradise book and started giggling. "I think it was a bad idea to give him that book," thought Jin. "Ichiraku stand. 2 orders of miso ramen," said Ayame as she handed the ramen to a raven-haired and pink-haired who were none other than Sasuke Uchiha and Sakura Haruno. They changed too. Sasuke now wears a uniform like Kakashi and Sakura wears a kimono like Shizune and let her hair grow long again. "Thanks Ayame," said Sasuke. Ayame smiled. "You're welcome Sasuke-san." As they were eating, Sasuke saw that Sakura was sad. "What's wrong Sakura-chan?" asked Sasuke. "It's officially 3 years now," Sakura replied. He knew what she was talking about. "Don't worry Sakura, I'll find him don't worry," assured Sasuke with a grin. "No," replied as she placed her hand on Sasuke's hand. "We'll find him together." Gaara was staring at the sand-filled desert through his window thinking about all that's happened in 3 years. Him apologizing to Temari and Kankuro of the way he acted, trying harder to keep Shukaku at bay, being elected case cage. Even tough he's the case cage now, there are people that still fear him. The one thing he's mainly thinking about was Naruto's kidnap. Naruto was the one person who can understand his pain and managed to save Gaara from himself. Gaara was upset that he could do nothing for Naruto's case. Just then, he heard a knock on the door. "Yes," answered Gaara. The door opened to reveal a woman in a black kimono, a red sash, a huge fan, and 4 ponytails. "What is it Temari?" Gaara asked. Temari was a little worried about Gaara, he has been depressed lately. She'd heard about Naruto's abduction, she felt bad about Naruto. She heard like everyone else about his past, she was surprised that Naruto was the son of the legendary Yondaime Hokage. She was also surprised no one ever thought that they looked alike. "Gaara, are you okay?" Temari asked with a concerned tone. Gaara sighed. "Yeah, I guess." "Gaara, there was nothing you could have did. You didn't even heard about it since a month after," said Temari. Gaara knew she was right but couldn't help but feel guilty. "I know Temari, it's just, help changed my life and I didn't even have to say thank you." Temari walked up to her little brother and ruffled his hair. "You know, you were never like this back then," Temari said smiling at him. "I guess we all gotta thank him when we find him huh," said Temari. Gaara smiled. "Yeah, by the way, take a break from the missions." Naruto and Jin's campsite. Naruto was sitting next to a campfire in a cave of a stable mountain reading his now appreciated Icha Paradise. Just the Jin walked in the cave. "Hey kid, I decided that you deserve a break." Naruto looked up and replied happily, "Finally. I can't remember the last time I got to have some fun." "Just be back in a month," Jin said to his teenage grandson. "Yeah, sure, you know where I'm going to be, right?" asked Naruto. "Yes, at that crazy city in beach country." "Get with the times, old man," replied Naruto before he head out the cave. Konoha, Rookie 9, Team Guy, and all their senseis are in Tsunade's office waiting for her to speak. "Thank you all for coming in. For 3 years you all been given side missions of finding Naruto." They all felt a little sad for not finding him. "But you all are human and need time off, so I made some connections that gave you all a vacation to beach country to have some fun for a month, while they're all send some trusted Anbu to take over the search." "I'm not going," said Sasuke. "Sasuke, I know you want to find Naruto as much as everyone else, but you shouldn't make it your reason for living. Besides, you and Sakura need some time with each other on a real date," said Tsunade. Sasuke and Sakura had red-shaded cheeks. "It's only for a month, then you all can go back to finding him. All I'm saying is take a break for a while, God knows you all deserve it." "Hi." A week later around night. "Alright, we're here," yelled Kiba as he pointed at the huge city by the ocean called Haruyu. It's Japanese for spring break, I think. The city is huge. It was like a Japanese Las Vegas, except it doesn't have as much casinos and hookers. It does have a lot of fancy restaurants and nightclubs. You know what? Think of it as a Japanese Hollywood instead. Everyone was amazed at the place. "This might not be troublesome after all," admitted Shikamaru holding Ino in his arms. "I can't wait to eat the buffet," said Choji as he drooled. "First things first, guys, we got to head to the hotel," said Kakashi. When they got to the hotel, they were mesmerized by its design. The floor tiles were white marble and there was a fountain that looked like a fish shooting water in the air. They walked to the desk to find 2 familiar faces. "Tamari-san, Kankuro-san," said a surprised Sakura. The 2 turned around to see the group. Kankuro didn't change much except for different face paint. "Hey, how's it going?" said Kankuro. "Good, are you guys on vacation too?" asked Shikamaru. "Yeah, Gaara set it up for us. It's nice having a cage for a brother," said Tamari. "Well, what are we waiting for? Our youth isn't stopping for anything," said Guy. They all checked in and head to their rooms. With Naruto. Naruto is currently walking down the street looking for something or someone. "Where are they? You've been with them for 2 years and you can't find them," Naruto said to himself. Just then he heard, "Pervert!" yelled a woman as she slapped a man that looked like he's Naruto's age. Then man was on the ground rubbing his cheek muttering curses. He was wearing purple shirt and pants, had a weird cape, and a katana wrap in bandages. Just imagine Piccolo's clothes from Dragon Ball Z and a sword. He had short spiky brown hair and eyes. Naruto walked up to the guy and said, "How's it going, Kanju?" Kanju looked, "Hey Naruto. How's it going, buddy?" said Kanju as he got back up and high-fived Naruto. "It's all good. Yo, where's Taka and Fuka?" "They're already at the nightclub, let's get going." "Hell yeah," replied Naruto. The breakdown. Naruto and his newly introduced friend Kanju just walked in the nightclub. It was full of people dancing to their own groove. The lights kept flashing different neon colors. The walls were dark blue and smooth, and on the right side there was a long bar reaching all the way from one wall to the other. "You see him?" asked Naruto looking the other way of Kanju. "There," Kanju said pointing at 2 people sitting next to the bar. One had baggy black pants, a sleeveless dark blue shirt with shoulder guards, jet black hair, gray eyes, and on his back was a red staff. The other had blue pants, a silver t-shirt with a cool shark designed across the back, pale blonde hair, green eyes, and was wearing gloves that have metal plating on the back of it so when it's a fist it's guarded from harm. "Hey, Taka, Fuka," called Kanju. The 2 faced the direction where they heard Kanju. "Kanju. Naruto. You finally showed up," said Taka. He stood up. Fuka got up and grabbed hold of Naruto and gave him a noogie with his armored fist. "Finally we all here, let's leave this joint and start the show." "Yeah, but first get off me," said Naruto as his head started to hurt. Fuka let go of Naruto and they made their way to the show. "You'll find out." Hotel rooms. Sakura, Ino, Tamari, Hinata looked inside their room. Their room is the size as large apartments. "Whoa, look at this," said Ino. Sakura walked up to the bed and jumped on it to find that it wasn't like those crappy beds in normal hotels but as soft as a cloud. these beds are great. Sasuke and Kakashi walked in their room and Kakashi said, "Hey, you two, we're all going to a concert, so get ready." "A concert? Who's playing?" asked Tamari as she came out of the huge bathroom. "We don't know much about them, but they're called Maelstrom and we heard that they're very good," explained Sasuke. "Hey, I heard of them, they're one of the best bands around. I heard one of their songs on the radio, but I never really saw them." Anko silently walked up behind Kakashi and wrapped her arms around him and whispered, "That'll be fun, our first night together at a concert." Kakashi started having a major nosebleed. "You girls ready yet?" asked Sasuke. "Yep, let's go," replied Sakura as she glomped on Sasuke's arm. The concert. The Konoha ninjas made their way to their booth. The concert was packed, there were people everywhere screaming the name of the band. "Wow, they must be great to have over 1,000 people here," awed Tenten. "Yosh, this will be an amazing show," yelled Guy. "Yosh, you bet Guy-sensei," yelled Lee. "Lee, sensei, Lee, sensei." Before they could hug each other they were hit in the head by Kurenai. "What goes on in Konoha, stays in Konoha." "Hey, it's starting," interrupted Tamari. The lights began to dim and the crowd started to scream as loud as they can as four shadowy figures walked up on the stage. They picked up their instruments and it all went silent until the lights suddenly shut up to reveal band. They were all wearing anbu-like masks, one a dog, a hawk, a shark and a fox. The crowd yelled with such loudness but lowered down as they started playing and the fox masked man started singing. "I've told you this once before, can't control me. If you try to take me down you're gonna break. Feel you're having nothing that you're doing for me. I'm thinking you are a fake, you are that way. I stand alone. Inside I stand alone. You're always hiding behind your so-called goddess. So what, you don't think that we can't see your face? Resurrecting back before the final fallen. I'll never rest until I can make my own way." The other band members started to sing. "I'm not afraid of fading. I stand alone. Feeling your sting down inside me. I'm not tired forever. I stand alone. Everything that I believe is fading. I stand alone. Inside I stand alone." The music started to tone down a little in a steady. The fox masked man started to sing softer. "Now it's my time." The dog masked man started to repeat the words. "Now it's my time. It's my time to dream. It's my time to dream. Dream of the sky. Dream of the sky." The two are now singing together. "Make me believe that this place isn't made by the poison in me. Help me decide if my fire will burn out before you can breathe." The fox was now back singing solo. "Breathe into me." The dog-masked guitarist started playing a unique solo which lasted until the fox started to sing again. "I stand alone. Inside I stand alone. Feeling your sting down inside me. I'm not tired forever. I stand alone. Everything that I believe is fading. I stand alone. Inside I stand alone. Inside E." The song ended and everyone started cheering. The nins were also amazed, they all cheered and whistled. "Whyee-ah. Whhhhhoo. Believe it or not, that was Hinata. If you want to hear the song, go to my profile." Everyone stared at Hinata. "Wow. Hinata is rocker," thought Kiba. All the girls were blushing mad seeing the fox guy's six-pack. Even the cool-headed Tamari had the urge to tackle the guy and have her way with him. After the concert, the ninjas were walking back to the hotel talking about the concert and the songs they played: Diary of Jane, Pain, Saving Me and many other songs. "I do not own these songs. If you don't know them, go to my profile." "That was awesome," Kiba declared. "Hinata, I never thought you were the rocker kind of girl," said Tenten. Hinata giggled a little. "Well, their songs are good." "That was a nice concert, huh, Sakura?" said Sasuke. Sakura smiled at him back and said, "Yes, it was. I wish Naruto could have been with us." Sasuke placed his arm around Sakura and kissed her cheek, which made her blush. "Don't worry, we'll find him soon. I can feel it." Tamari stopped when she saw a music store and had an idea in her head. "Hey, I'll catch up with you guys later, I want to check something out." "K, later," waved Konkuro as he and everyone else headed back. "Let's find a few CDs and posters while we're at it," thought Tamari as she walked in the store. With the band, they were walking to their room laughing and joking around with each other. "That was one of the best ones yet," said the hawk-masked man as he took off his mask to reveal it to be Taka. The other three took their masks off. "Hell yeah," said the shark-masked man who is Fuka. The dog-masked man who is Kanju called out to the fox, Yeah, you were something today. Naruto. The last mask was removed and revealed 2 blue eyes and whisker marks. Alright guys, let's go our separate ways until tomorrow, replied the blonde-headed ninja. Sure, you know where we're meeting it, right? Asked Kanju. What are you, my granddad? Replied Naruto as he took his leave. With Naruto was walking down a shortcut of an alleyway to get to his hotel. No one was there besides him and it was pretty dark. Naruto was thinking of something that was distracting of everything besides his destination. In the crowd, I could have sworn I saw someone familiar. Just then he heard a voice he has not heard in a while. Feeling nostalgic, aren't we, Kit? Asked Kyuubi. Long time no headache, Fox, replied Naruto. Kyuubi laughed. Yes it has. Once in a while a demon needs to sleep for a few years. A few years, huh? I hoped for a few decades. Ooh, that hurt, Kit, it really did. Ha 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 ha, Kyuubi laughed. Naruto was getting annoyed. What do you want? Demanded Naruto. Well, let Kit get down. Naruto looked behind him to see some shuriken heading straight for him. Naruto quickly pulled out a kunai and deflected them all in time. Where the hell did that come from? Questioned Naruto, who suddenly heard footsteps coming from behind him. He looked back to see 3 guys in a cloak running up to him with sharp katanas. Naruto jumped in the air and spin-kicked the 3 in their heads, which sent them straight into a wall. Who the heck are why? Naruto was choked off by a tight thin metal wire which appeared around his neck. He saw the string and followed it up to see a cloaked man strangling Naruto with it on the roof as 6 more pop out from the roofs holding kunai the size of a person's torso. Naruto grabbed hold of the wire and yanked it, forcing the enemy off the cliff. Naruto uppercutted the man sending up, but before he could, Naruto grabbed his leg and then swung him like a bat at the aerial attackers. Right after, Naruto sent his fist behind his head, hitting another sneak attacker who Naruto grabbed by the head and slammed it to the ground hard. After Naruto finished him off, he was surrounded by a few more dozen cloaked fighters carrying all sorts of weapons and some doing hand seals. Naruto smirked before saying, "Bring it." With Temari. Temari had just walked out of the store smiling at what she got. She got all the albums of Maelstrom, and a few posters of the lead singer who she's gotten quite fond of. "I've got to get his autograph," said Temari in a sweet tone. "Boom." Temari snapped out of her trance and looked at her right, which she saw a quarter-mile away a large puff of smoke. The kind after a bomb goes boom. "What the hell's going on over there?" questioned Temari as she ran to the scene. Back with Naruto. The smoke cleared. Naruto was brushing off some dirt off his shirt. Around him were bodies without a single sign of survivors. The alley got much wider. "Phfft," Naruto scoffed as he was ready to take his leave before anyone shows up. Naruto suddenly heard clapping. He turned to his left to find the noise coming from in the shadows. "Nicely done, Naruto, you truly are a demon." Naruto was angered by that comment and yelled, "Who are you?" A figure slowly came out of the shadows and replied, "No need to be so rude, Naruto, even if I did ordered a few men to test your skills." The figure was completely out of the shadow. The figure was wearing a long black coat with one sleeve missing and the arm was wrapped in black bandages. His face was also wrapped halfway, only revealing his mouth and one amber eye. He looked around his mid-20s. "Allow me to introduce myself. My name is Red Sushin." The figure bowed like a gentleman. "Alright, Sushin. What the hell is with you attacking me off guard?" demanded Naruto. "Like I said, Naruto, to test your skills. So did I pass?" asked Naruto sarcastically. "Of course, Naruto, these were all Junin level ninja you just killed, about 48 to be exact." Just then 2 more ninja jumped out of the ground behind Naruto holding kunais and shurikens. Naruto in a split second raised his arms and sent his elbows straight into each ninja's chest. It was so fast that the ninjas only stopped in the air and fell to the floor dead. "Correction, 50 inches, said Naruto. Red Sushin just chuckled for a moment and continued speaking, "Remember this, Naruto. We have a lot more in common than you think." Naruto was riddled of what he said. "What? I'll let you continue, you little break for now, Naruto. Remember what I said earlier?" And with that, Red Sushin was engulfed by flames. A second later the flames vanished, only revealing a burnt-up subordinate of Red Sushin. He was using this guy like some kind of phone, thought Naruto. Naruto then heard someone coming his way. He immediately hightailed it out of there. He didn't even notice that he dropped his mask while running to the hotel. Tamari just stopped in the middle of the fight scene looking around to see nothing but lifeless bodies. What happened here? Tamari tried to find any survivors but found none. When she was about to leave and inform the others, something caught her eye. Tamari walked up to the object, picked it up to surprisingly notice. I've seen this before. Naruto opened the door to his room. It was the size of a condo. It had a dining room, a kitchen for a celebrity, and a bed for a king. Naruto walked into the living room that had a flat-screen plasma TV, a PlayStation 2, and a mini-fridge. Naruto fell onto the couch and took a deep breath of exhaustion. He was remembering what Red Sushin said to him. Flashback. We have a lot more in common than you think. End flashback. What did he mean by that? Naruto said to himself. The door suddenly knocked. Naruto walked up to open the door to find Kanju, Taka, and Fuka. They all had a couple of minor bruises and nothing else but a few tears of their clothing. The hell happened to you? Asked Naruto. Let us in and have a couple of drinks and we'll be glad to tell you, said Kanju, spitting a drop of blood out in the hallway. They all came in and plopped on Naruto's couch, tired and exhausted, as Naruto the host got them some root beer. Root beer. Alright, what happened? Try to sneak in the woman's spa again. Ha ha, replied Kanju sarcastically. We were all attacked by a large number of ninjas, explained Fuka as he took out a cloth and used it to clean his blood-stained gloves. Yeah, and after we all met this guy saying he was testing us, added Kanju. You do? Naruto said, surprised. You met that mummy? Questioned Kanju, taking a big gulp of the root beer. He said something about us having more in common, Taka added, cracking his neck. So you guys got a pop quiz too? Deduced Naruto, finally joining his fellow musicians on the couch. Do you think he knows about our little friends? Asked Kanju nervously. No way. We never told anyone about that. We're too careful to let out something like that to anyone, retorted Taka. Well, whatever it may be, we gotta be more alert from now on, said Fuka as he tossed the bloody cloth in a trash bin across the room. Naruto was in deep thought, thinking of the current events that happened no less than 2 hours ago. He was thinking of what was that man's goal and why was he testing them. Naruto stood up and started walking towards the window, gazing at the city that beamed with light with narrow eyes. Whatever it is, we gotta be ready for it, said Naruto as he turned and walked into his bedroom. A few minutes later, Naruto came back with a cell phone in his hand and tossed it to Taka. Call Vin, their manager, tell him we're going on hiatus, Naruto ordered Taka. While Taka was talking to Vin, everybody else started planning their next move. With the Konoha ninjas, it was late and everyone was asleep except for some senseis who thought that since they are in a fancy hotel, why not try the mattresses? Asuma opened the door of the room which Kurenai and he were staying. He walked across the doorways in his boxers holding an empty ice bucket. He knocked on the door opened enough just for a silver-haired head to pop out. Hey, sorry to bother you Kakashi, but you wouldn't mind pointing where the ice machine is, would you? Asked Asuma. Asuma, buddy right knows not a good time. Just then the door opened completely, revealing Kakashi in only black speedos and with his arms handcuffed behind his back thanks to Anko, who was wearing a skin-tight leather suit showing off some dirty parts and holding a stick that was mainly used for whipping horses when you're riding them. Oh hey Asuma, you want to join us? She said, tapping her hand with the stick in her hand. No, that's okay. I'll see you in the morning Kakashi, replied Asuma, who ran for his life back to his room. Help me, begged Kakashi as Anko closed the door and dragged them back to bed. The safety word is banana, okay, said Anko as she was to begin her wickedness. Behold my power. I had just made Kakashi owned like a bitch. Fear me. Back with Naruto and his buds. Taka just hung up the phone and made his way to the group, who were still discussing of what actions must be placed. Vin said we can take a break, but first we have to do one more concert, Taka stated to the three. Alright. When does he want it? Asked Naruto. The end of the week. That's in 3 days, added Kanju, yawning. Let's get some sleep guys, you all can crash here for tonight, Naruto said, heading to his room. Everyone else slept on the couch or slept with their backs on the wall. In the morning on concert day, everyone was in the dining room having breakfast, which was all nothing but Chinese takeout. Naruto started to speak with his mouth full of fried rice. So here's how it goes. We do the concert without wearing our masks since I lost mine, and it would surprise the crowd so much that they would keep talking about it and won't pressure Vin's higher-ups for another album for a while. And after that we meet up with Gramps and he can help train us for a bit since some of us had a little trouble with a few rouges and in-case mummy face. Their official nickname for Red Sushin ever shows up again with bigger frines. Naruto finished. Sounds good, but you think that parrot head, Jin's nickname, will let us train with you? Questioned Taka as he took a chomp out of his mushu shrimp. Sure he would, assured Naruto with a thumbs up. By the way Naruto, how did you lose your mask? Asked Kanju. I think I lost it when I was fighting those goons last night. I heard footsteps after so I had to get out of there, assumed Naruto. Man, only one night and we got ourselves in horseshit, sighed Fuka as finished up his sweet and sour pork. Alright, let's head over to the beach and get ready, ordered Naruto. They all finished and walked out the room door. With the kunoichis, all the girls were getting dressed. Hinata was combing her hair. Sakura was blow-drying hers. Ino was putting on makeup and Tamari was already dressed and staring out the window thinking about something unknown to the rest. You all wonder what happened that night at the once ally now space for another building. Well, Tamari was spotted by an official and was brought in for questioning. She was in the interrogation room for 2 hours before convincing them she didn't saw anything. When she came back in the morning they asked her where she was all night. She told them what happened without bringing up the mask she found. They were all shocked of what she said, but they all decided to stay out of it and leave it to the officers. What was the mask doing there anyway? Tamari thought to herself. She knew the mask was the same one the singer of the concert was wearing, but she did not know what he had to do with the massacre. Hey Tamari, what's bugging you? Asked Tenten as she came out of the shower wrapped in a towel. Tamari snapped back in the real world and quickly made lie, oh nothing, it just that I wanted to see that band Aegean, they were awesome. Yeah girl, they kicked ass, said Hinata. A knock came from the door. Sakura went towards to open it and found Asuma, Kurenai, Kakashi, Anko, and the boys. Hey, get ready, there's gonna be another concert today on the beach, Asuma called. All the girls screamed so loud that all the glass windows broke. The beach, which was a lot bigger than the last place of the concert, was filled so much that there were people watching from the very top of buildings next to the ocean. The ninjas managed to get the closes they can, which was a quarter mile away from the stage. It wasn't that big of a deal since there is a giant screen on the stage. Ooh, I just can't wait, squealed Ino with excitement. All the girls were going nuts except for Tamari, who secretly had Naruto's mask in her possession. She was thinking, why would they start playing if the singer lost his mask? Was he even doing there? Was he the one who killed those people? Thought Tamari. Smoke suddenly loomed over the stage as 4 figures were in the middle of it. Everyone started screaming, chanting Maelstrom. The smoke suddenly faded away to reveal Taka on the bass, Fuka on the drums, Kanju on the guitar. And when the singer's blue eyes and thick whisker mark came into view, it did not take more than 5 seconds to recognize who that man was. Naruto. Naruto and his companions all got into their fighting stance. Naruto had his left hand open in front of him and his right hand in back in a fist. Kanju grabbed his sword and pointed it at Hidan with the blade sideways, and with a half a circle twist, the bandages shredded into pieces, revealing a silver blade with a pure white edge, the sharp part. He then took his left foot forward and his right foot back. His left arm was stretched out with his hand upside down and his index and middle finger out, while his other ones are wrapped in the palm of his hand. He placed the blade of his sword in the middle of his fingers with the sharp end upwards. Taka grabbed his staff and slid his right foot forward and bended his left foot back. He positioned his staff in sync with his right leg. Fuka cracked his knuckles and started to slightly jump from one foot to the other, like a boxer. So, you all want to feel the wrath of Lord Jashin, said Hidan as he took out an object that appears to be a rosary of some sort. It was a chain of beads with a charm with an upside down inside a circle. Must you always do that stupid prayer before every fight? Sneered the masked man to his partner. How many times do I have to tell you, Kakuzu? It's part of my religion, I must, retorted Hidan as he began praying to his deity. You and your stupid religion, scoffed Kakuzu. Why are you two blabbering and not fighting? Yelled Fuka as he charged straight for Kakuzu. Fuka jumped in the air and readied his right fist for impact on Kakuzu's face. Fuka, stop, yelled Naruto, but it was too late. Fuka fired his punch, but before he could hit his mark, A hand suddenly grabbed his face, making his punch inches away from Kakuzu. "It's rude to interrupt people when they're talking," said Kakuzu in a plain tone. After he spoke, he let go of Fuka and kicked him in the stomach, sending behind his friends hitting the dirt hard. "Fuka!" everyone yelled. Unbeknownst to them, Hidan just finished his praying and was ready for action. Naruto spotted him and immediately went into defense. Hidan and Kakuzu charged at the four with lightning speed. Taka, Kanju and Fuka, who got back up, all went into defense as had set his scythe horizontally and swept the giant wheat cutter at Naruto. Naruto jumped in the air, barely missing the blood-red blade. Naruto instinctively grabbed a few shuriken and threw them at Hidan's head. Hidan smirked and grabbed the ninja stars with his teeth, and with a powerful force, he bit them to pieces. "Is that the best you got, Blondie?" mocked Hidan as he sends an uppercut to Naruto's jaw. Naruto flew up in the air with blood trailing from his mouth. He regained his focus and flips backwards and lands on his feet, looking at Hidan with a smirk of triumph. Hidan didn't know what he was smiling about until he saw a flash appeared below him that was Kanju with his blade aiming for his heart. "Oh shit, og." Hidan was cut off by a sword in the heart. "Game over," said Kanju, grinning. All Hidan did was smile and looked at Kanju. "Not quite," he said as raised his scythe and sent it down towards Kanju. Kanju as fast as he can slide to his left, leaving his sword in Hidan's chest. Kanju, as much as everyone else, was thinking the same thing. "The fuck?" Hidan placed a hand on the sword and without any sign of pain yanked it out and tossed it to Kanju. "That was a nice move. See if you can get me again." Hidan, strangely encouraged, was so surprised that he almost forgot about his sword. He quickly caught it and went back into stance. "Hey Taka, Fuka, you guys take care of the masked guy while we take care of this guy," commanded Naruto. "Roger," replied the two as they charged for Kakuzu. "You kids are a few decades too young to match my power," taunted Kakuzu as he prepared for the clash. The Konoha and Suna nins were not having a good time either, as Sasori of the Red Sand, "Thank you for the correction again," and a mysterious aerial bomber blocked their way from Naruto. "We will be your opponents for today," said Sasori, scanned over the small crowd of ninjas. Two seem to be Sharingan users. Two he guess are from the Hyuga clan due to the veiny eyes they possess. A dog user. A hot genjutsu user. A guy who specializes in blades of some sort. A fat ass. A prima donna blonde. A prima donna blonde with a big ass fan. Two gay guys with big eyebrows. A chick with big boobs. A bug user. A weapon specialist. A medic nin. A pineapple head, and is that Batman? Sasori Dono, let's split the numbers so it's all fair. Insisted the blonde-headed bomber. Very well, Deidara, approved Sasori as he sent his tail in the center of the crowd. Everyone jumped either to their left or right as the massive tail landed on the dirt, creating tremors and cracks on the earth. Deidara, the left side is all yours, announced Sasori as he lifted his tail back, ready for another go. The group was divided into two. On the left was Kakashi, Asuma, Kankuro, Shino, Neji, Shikamaru, Choji, Tenten and Lee. On the right was Ino, Tamari, Hinata, Anko, Sasuke, Kurenai, Guy, Kiba and Sakura. "Thank you, Sasori Dono," said Deidara as he looked at his portion of prey. The shinobi all got into defensive position as they saw Deidara dig his hands into a zipper bag on his waist. "You guys really are serious, even when it's ordinary clay?" Gestured Deidara as revealed them the handful of clay in his hands. Deidara smiled as he said, "And you all should be when it's in my hands, yeah?" Deidara then clutched the clay into his fist, not showing a single bit of it. "What is he doing?" thought Kakashi as he kept one eye closed and one Sharingan eye open. Deidara smiled at their puzzlement of what he was creating. "I love it when they're clueless. Number C7 should surprise them quite well, yeah." Deidara opened his hand and laid there countless little dragonflies made out of clay. Slowly, their wings began to flutter and in a second flapped at high speed and began to fly around him. "Taste the skills of a true artist, yeah," called Deidara as he did a hand seal which signaled the clay insects to go into battle. The swarm tripled in size to the size of kunai and flew straight toward the shinobi with intense speed. Sasori, unlike the other Akatsuki members, likes to savor his victims' suffering before killing them, and what fun way to torture them than mentally. "Tell me, what importance is this Kyuubi brat worth to you all?" questioned Sasori. That's none of your business and don't call him that, retorted Sakura with anger. Oh, did I strike a nerve? How about we all team up and rip that demon's head off? We might become famous, jokingly insisted the Akatsuki member. You'll pay for that, yelled Sasuke as he charged a Chidori and was about to charge at him until he felt a hand on his shoulder. It was Guy with a serious look on his face. Sasuke, you need to calm down or you get yourself killed. But, I know how much of an ally Naruto is to you and we all feel the same way, but what you're doing is foolish and won't make Naruto any closer to home. You need to let it go. Sasuke with all his willpower removed his anger and cancelled his Chidori. Guy was right. If they want Naruto back then they must not let anything distract them from him. Sasuke looked at Sasori with controlled killing intent. This is your last warning, move or we will kill you. Everyone narrowed their eyes with killing intent as they waited for Sasori's answer. Well, let's see what you got, little man. Sushin stared down with excitement as the fight was now really beginning. With all of the sudden he turned his head behind him to see a tall figure walking up to him. He was wearing a Akatsuki cloak, but unlike the others it was more of a kimono than a cape. He had 3 bridge piercings on each side of his nose. Blonde hair slightly darker than Naruto's and dark blue eyes. Finally you show up. Your puppets are starting to put on a show, said Sushin as turned back to the fight. I only disposed the ones I do not find necessary. Itachi, Kisame and Takehana are doing their assignments as they were told, reported the leader of Akatsuki with a grim voice. He walked up to the mummy observing the fight with him. The higher up want us to speed up the growth of our targets. Even if things go a little bumpy, they should be able to defeat them with their respective Biju, said Sushin. The 3-tailed shark, 5-tailed hawk, the 8-tailed dog and the 9-tailed fox, said Sushin, finishing the leader's sentence as he pointed at Naruto who is dodging a scythe aiming for his abdomen. The Akatsuki leader looked at the sky which was beginning to storm. A fitting end for people in a scene like this, wouldn't you say? Questioned Sushin, now gazing at the skies. The leader did not reply and started walking away from him. I'll make sure that my job is going according to plan. You best be doing your part smoothly as well, said the Akatsuki leader as he poofed in a cloud of black smoke. Your mystery even to me, big brother? Naruto and Kanju were inches from shitting themselves. They had hit Hidan multiple times in his vital spots and he still acts like it's fun. Hidan smiled at the two who were catching their breath. Oh come on, don't tell me you're tired after an hour of trying to make me push daisies, are you? Commented a slightly disappointed Hidan. Naruto and Kanju were amazed at Hidan. They got Hidan in the heart 5 times, the head 3 times, the spine 4 times, liver 2 times, the lungs countless times, and he still acts like it's no biggie and he heals automatically. Damn, we've been up with this guy for an hour and he's not even showing any sign of fatigue, said Kanju as he finally caught his breath. That's not all of it, we've got this guy in the vitals and he heals in an instant, finished Naruto. Kanju was getting annoyed by that fact. He turned his head towards the religious killer and called out. Hey, what gives? While are you not dead? Hidan smiled at the 2 teens and said. Because, you 2 heathens, I'm immortal. A being that can never die. Hidan then laughed manically and with great speed threw his scythe at the blonde and brown-haired duo. They quickly jumped out of the way as the scythe missed its mark and pierced the dirt instead. The 2 high-level warriors jumped far back to gain some distance from Hidan. Hidan then jumped with a burst of chakra, sending him straight at them like a rocket. Naruto hit the ground and did some hand seal and yelled, Kaisai Keita. Nenshou Karasu Mure no Jutsu. Naruto sucked in a large amount of air and with all his might blew out countless fireballs that took form of ravens that had molted little flares making look like it's molting feathers. The firebirds went into a triangle formation and flew at high speed towards their mark. Is that all you got? Mocked Hidan as he took the rope of his scythe and started spinning his scythe rapidly, then threw it at the blazing flock. The bird-like flames either got hit or destroyed, or the wind of the spinning scythe diverted them from Hidan and hit the ground making large explosions. You're pathetic, yelled Hidan as he pulled back his scythe and landed on the ground. He scanned the area unable to find them. Now where did you fuckers go? Naruto in a sudden flash appeared in front of him with his fist covered with lightning. Kazama Keita. Ikazuki Jouten Keibatsu. Naruto at full force punched at Hidan in the torso repeatedly with rapid speed. "Take this," yelled Naruto as he sends one last punch in Hidan's gut, pushing him, sliding him back a few meters. Hidan got his balance and bent down, coughing blood. He looked up at Naruto, who had major killing intent in his eyes. He. Ha 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 ha. You think that's going to stop me? I'm fucking immortal." All Naruto did is laugh at his outburst like it was a joke from Carol's Mencia. "What's so damn funny?" yelled a now angry psychopath. "You dipshit, there's no such thing as immortality. Only people that die hard," replied Naruto, still chuckling. "Besides, that was a diversion." "For what?" "For me." Hidan looked over his shoulder and spotted Kanju a half a mile away, covered with raging chakra. The chakra swerved rapidly enough to cut the ground below his feet. Kanju smirked as began running. "Karit Shippu." Kanju sped up his running at ultra speed. "Now you're finished," Kanju said, disappearing in a flash. Kanju suddenly appeared at Hidan's right, then flashed to his front, then to his left and back. He was flashing around Hidan with speeds faster than Naruto's. Kanju in a split second appeared all around Hidan at the same time, as if there were clones circling him at high speed, and not just clockwise but counterclockwise as well. Hidan was baffled of his predicament. He looked from left to right, seeing over a dozen flashes of Kanju around him. Kanju stared at Hidan for a few seconds before releasing a huge killer intent. One of the flashes slid past Hidan at high speed, letting his blade pass his flesh, then disappeared back in the circle. Another one did the same thing, and another, and another, and another. The more he cuts Hidan, his speed increases. Hidan was getting butchered. His torso got sliced everywhere. His left thigh was almost off, his right arm sliced off clean, his left shoulder got gashed at, and one of his right eye got a deep cut across it. Kanju kept on hitting away at Hidan and kept on getting faster and faster each time. "Time to end this," Kanju said in a serious tone. The flashes stopped attacking Hidan and began circling him faster, faster, and his speed was so all the flashes stopped and placed without vanishing. The kanjus surrounded Hidan with all routes blocked. They all set their blades in different angles. Everything was still and somewhat silent, waiting for the moment anyone makes a move. Konju's flashes all disappears, clearing the area around Hidan, who was all cut up. Hidan looked up and managed to find Kanju next to Naruto, who were both smirking as if they already won. "Wah, what are so funny, assholes? Did you forget I can regenerate?" Hidan all of a sudden started tearing apart like there was an invisible blade hacking him to pieces. His limbs were flying, guts were splattering everywhere, and the ground was feeling the same force. When it all ended, the scenery was all catastrophic. The ground had giant gashes and covered with the remains of Hidan's limbs and organs. They could see only one limb barely intact. They kept looking around until they see Hidan's head, which had its eyes wide open and showed no sign of life. Naruto broke the silence by saying, "Wow, I think you overdid it." Naruto walked over to Hidan's head and observed it. "Looks like you're all talk," said Naruto as he grabbed the head by its jaw and picked it up. Kanju collapsed on the ground, panting heavily due to exhaustion. "That asshole, that technique I did on him put cracks on my legs. I don't think I can run as normal, but I should be able to go up to 60 inches, said Kanju, lifting his body back up and started walking toward Naruto. "Okay, let's go help Taka and Fuka before Naruto felt a sudden surge of pain from his hand. He looked back at the hand which was holding the head to find the head biting on it, letting Naruto's blood seep into his teeth. What the hell? Taka and Fuka stared at Kakuzu with dagger-like glares, waiting for him to make a move. Kakuzu gazed at the two with his unique eyes. He chuckled with amusement, thinking that they're fools to try and match his might. "So, you kids want an early grave?" mocked Kakuzu, cracking his knuckles by clenching them into fists. Taka went into battle stance, as did Fuka. They didn't let the comment distract them in any way. Taka's thoughts were on finding Kakuzu's weak points and what justice he might have in his sleeve. Fuka's thoughts were along the same line. He admitted that he was too rash at the beginning, and cause of it he's got a large footmark on his abdomen. Taka smirked as he turned his head to Fuka. "Hey Fuka, wanna make a bet?" "A bet, you say?" replied Fuka with interest. "Yeah, just for fun. Here's the bet. Whoever fails to send the finishing blow has to treat the winner to all-you-can-eat sushi," answered Taka with a grin. "Dang man, sushi pretty expensive. You sure you can afford it?" Fuka taunted. Only one way to find out, replied Taka as he turned his attention towards Kakuzu, who was getting bored listening to their conversation. The Nile isn't just a river in Africa, kids. You all have better chances fighting Hidan, since he's the weakest in Akatsuki anyway, insulted Kakuzu as he took out a small black book. He opened the book and began turning the pages. After a couple seconds of turning pages, Kakuzu stopped. "Ah, here we are," Kakuzu announced. He lifted his free hand and pointed at Taka. Taka Sorashin. Rank. S-class missing nin of Kumogakure. Crimes against the village. Absent without authorized leave and the murder of the daimyo Kaminari no Kuni. Bounty. 50 million dead or alive. Kakuzu started turning the pages again for a few seconds until he stopped on another page. He pointed Fuka as he read, Fuka Hoshigaki. Rank. S-class missing nin of Kirigakure. Crimes against the village. Absent without authorized leave. The murder of a fellow shinobi and capable connections with an SS missing nin. Bounty. 75 million dead or alive. Kakuzu closed his book and placed it back in his sleeve. From what the book says, your sorry asses will give me a big load of pay dirt, Kakuzu stated before doing a few hand seals. Taka and Fuka got ready for whatever was coming their way. Kakuzu placed his hands on the ground and yelled, Doden. Daichi Habi Tama no Jutsu. Immediately 4 giant snakes came out of the ground, launching themselves at the shark and hawk. Taka and Fuka both jumped high in the air with the snakes not far behind. One of the snakes launched itself at Taka with no other objective but to kill. Taka, knowing he can't dodge easily in the air, came up with a quick solution. He waited until the giant dirt snake was in good range and slammed the tip of his staff on its head, then with enough force diverted himself out of the serpent's way. Taka took this advantage by using his staff like a bat and swung it at the creature's body, breaking the head and some of its body off and falling to the ground. Another snake appeared above him with its mouth wide open. Taka quickly did some hand seals and called out, Futon. Fuzei Tsurugi Sasho no Jutsu. Taka thrust out his hand, which released an invisible sword made out of wind that went through the snake, tearing the top of its head right off. Fuka's share of snakes attacked all together from different sides. Fuka grinned as he grabbed the first snake by the head. I can smash you to mere ruble, yelled Fuka as he sent an iron-coated fist in the snake's head, which set a chain reaction and the snake began to crumble into little rocks. After that, Fuka made a swift turn to see the other snake closing in. Fuka lifted his leg straight up and delivered a hardcore axe kick onto the snake, giving it the same fate as the last. The duo landed onto the ground, followed countless clods of dirt and rocks. They immediately raced towards Kakuzu, who was performing more hand seals. Doden. Doro Kasui no Jutsu. Spikes erupted from the ground, shredding anything in its path. Fuck, yelled Fuka as he and Taka was trying to get out way, but it was too late. The spikes impaled them both in a number of places. Kakuzu cursed himself, forgetting that he needed them alive to get the biju, but hey, he made some cold hard cash. His thoughts were cut short due to the bodies poof and were revealed to be logs. Shit, cursed Kakuzu as he quickly made one hand seal. Taka and Fuka popped right out of the ground with full force. Fuka delivered a chakra-charged uppercut, followed up with Taka hitting Kakuzu in countless places with swift and hard blows with his staff, sending him high in the air. Fuka performed several hand seals and called out, Sweden. Rikido Isu Yari no Jutsu. Fuka spat out 3 high-speed liquid blobs which took form of watery spears that could pierce stone at the speed they were going. Sushi Bill's all yours, Fuka declared with a smirk. Think again. Kakuzu flipped back in upwards position, taking the spears head on. The spears hit Kakuzu and each one exploded into little droplets as they hit him, much to Taka and Fuka's shock. Kakuzu landed onto the ground and only a few large tears on his cloak, with no signs of wounds and different color-looking skin which appears to be a stone grayish color. Kakuzu began to chuckle as he gazed at the speechless two. How do you like my Kurigane Karata? It makes my skin as hard as steel and makes me impervious to all attacks, explained Kakuzu. Taka and Fuka stared at Kakuzu with a glint of nervousness. That's right, it's all over for you. The Suna and Konoha nins gazed at the large number of dragonflies that were coming their way. Kakashi was the first to respond by performing hand seals. Kaden. Gokakyu no Jutsu. Kakashi then blew out a large sphere of fire that blocked the dragonflies from the group. Deidara just smirked as he watched his art get engulfed by the blaze. That's not going to work, yeah, Deidara chimed. Immediately a second later, the dragonflies flew out of the fireball still covered in bright yellow and orange flame, making them look like little fireballs that are flying. Move, ordered Neji as he jumped forward towards the rain of fire. He quickly activated his Byakugan and pulled out 2 handfuls of shuriken and performed one of his favorite moves. Hakesho Kaiden. Neji began to spin rapidly while releasing chakra, creating a powerful blue orb that was tearing through a large number of the clay insects. Neji used his Byakugan to track down the remaining bugs closest to the others and threw all the shuriken filled with some of his chakra at once, all hitting their mark. All the insects fell to the ground without detonating. Made it, by filling the shuriken with enough of my chakra. When they hit the bombs, the compressed chakra immediately bursts out, sinks in them and cancels out the 2 different chakra signatures. Neji deduced to himself as he turned his attention towards the other insects. I'll handle the rest, called out Tenten as she pulled out scroll that she began to open. So Shoryu, Tenten began throwing countless kunai and shuriken with such speed and accuracy that there's no other reason why they call her the weapon goddess. Tenten threw 183 projectiles and shot all 183 dragonflies bombs that combined together to create one giant explosion just meters away from the Tenten and the rest. Neji, who was in range of the explosion, was protected by his Hakesho Kaiden from any damage and landed on the ground with ease. Nice work, Tenten, the power of youth burns brightly in both you and Neji, cheered Lee. Deidara let out a loud laugh as he examined the remains of the huge bang that was his art. Such a spectacular show, the explosion was simply breathtaking. Now it's time to start getting serious, announced the serial bomber as he pointed at the ninja's feet. They all looked down to their surprise to find clay snakes well over a dozen surrounding them. How did they get there without us noticing? Shouted Konkuro. The snakes all jumped. Fact. There are some that can do that. In a flash of speed and entangled themselves around the ninjas with iron grip, not letting go. Bye bye. BOOMMMMMMM. End background music. Naruto stared in complete what the fuck mode as the head tried to bite through his hand. Kanju was along the same line, but he reacted to it by taking his sword and tried to cut it off, much to Naruto's displeasure. Dude, what the hell you are trying to do? Protested Naruto as he dodged the blade by a few inches. What's it look like I'm doing? I'm trying to kill that psycho, replied Kanju in the same high volume as Naruto. Can it involve me not losing my hand, you asshole? What did you call me, yo? Hey, you can at least pay attention while I bite your hand off. Naruto and Kanju both were cut off by voice. They slowly looked down to remember what they were arguing about. Holy shit, it's got my hand, get it off, get it off, get it off. Roared Naruto as he kneeled down and began smashing Hidan on the ground with all his strength. After a few seconds of smashing and freaking out, Hidan was nothing left but little pieces of meat. Just Naruto finally pulled himself back together. He and Kanju reviewed what had just happened and just sweated bullets of how Takafuka would laugh it up. I got the wound from the side. Yeah, unknown to anyone in the fight, the Sand Village was having its own troubles. The village gate was nearly destroyed and was piled with tons of corpses that were once strong and brave Suna shinobi. There was no movement except for one figure in an Akatsuki cloak and had blue hair and skin who was walking out of the village. For one of the legendary hidden ninja villages, this village sure was pathetic, said the man as he looked back at the village which was set ablaze. He then turned his head toward a ninja he was dragging by his fiery red hair, who was all beaten and severely wounded. So this is the Ichibi Jinchuriki. If he was a little stronger he might have been a challenge. In the peaceful land of spring, our 59-year-old Jin was sitting under a sakura tree that was surrounded by many more sakura trees drinking plum sake. He loves this place and always comes here once a year. It was where he felt like he was in eternal bliss. Jin took a sip of his delicious poison as he gazed at the beautiful lands of trees and the slow pink rain of sakura petals. You used to always beg me to bring you here. Jin thought to himself. He gazed at an object right next to a gray stone that was barraged with so many roses that the only thing that could be seen was the writing on the stone. Here lies Okami Kazama, a mother, a wife, a pure heart. Jin stared at the grave for a while before turning his attention back to the scenery. If only I didn't go. Flashback. Jin and Okami were sitting under a sakura tree watching their 4-year-old son Arashi play happily with Tsunade, who was teaching Arashi how to play patty cake. Jin looked at the blue sky before slowly turning his gaze towards Okami, who was rubbing her curved belly. Jin smiled at his wife, who was having their second child. Okami caught Jin staring with a smile on his face. "What is it?" Okami asked. "Nothing." Jin turned his attention back to the sky, watching a flock of birds gracefully fly in the air without a care. He truly never wanted this to end. Just then a large hawk flew down out of nowhere with unnatural speed. The hawk was light brown with dark brown markings, giving it a unique appearance. Jin eyed the bird as it landed on a stone next to him. He immediately recognized the hawk when he saw the message carrier on its leg with the leaf symbol. "Kazemaru? What are you doing here?" Jin questioned as he took the note from Kazemaru and began reading it. "Jin, I need you back in Konoha now, this is an order." "Taikaimaru." Jin sighed as he must cut his family vacation short. He felt a hand on his shoulder. He looked to see Okami staring at him with a worried look on her face. "What's wrong?" "I have to go back to Konoha for an assignment. I don't know how long it's going to take, but don't worry," Jin assured to Okami as he was about to get up but was halted by Okami as she put more pressure on his shoulder. "Jin, I'm scared. What if you don't come back? Remember a year ago when you came back half dead? The doctors almost gave up on you. I don't want that to happen again. I was so scared," Okami whispered with eyes threatening to shed tears. Jin looked at her for a moment and looked up at the blue sky. He remembered that day all right. It was a war against Hidden Waterfall. It just him and 200 Konoha nin against 1,000 Waterfall nin. Though they won, the small army has become nothing more than a small group. The only reason they won was because Jin went devil mode and took out a large portion of the soldiers, but he still took a beating since the corrupted Takikage drank the sacred water, which increased his chakra tenfold. It's in one of the Naruto specials. Jin used the last of his might to slay the tyrant. When the war ended, the ninjas slowly made their way to Konoha to see some people cheering with joy as they came home and some crying knowing that their loved ones will never come back. Jin had to be carried the entire time due to severe fatigue and chakra depletion. Jin remembered how close he was at death's grip. He also remembered how Okami brought him closer to death as she hugged him when he woke up. He never once saw her so distraught. He never wanted her to see her like that again. Jin stared at the sky as he came back to reality with a blank face. His face slowly turned into a smile that left Okami thinking what he had planned. "Jin, why are you smiling?" she asked. "What if when I finish the mission, and then retire?" Jin inquires as he watches as Okami became speechless. "But can you do that? I mean you're 27, Jin. A shinobi can retire anytime he wants, Okami. And we can move here. I can build a house and everything that we need. Think about it, Okami. We can raise Arashi and the baby here. I bet we can get Tsunade to babysit more often since the hot springs will practically be our backyard." Jin kept going on and on about what he's planning as Okami simply smiled and kissed him passionately. "Please be safe." "I will." Jin got up and walked towards his son, who was being hugged tightly by Tsunade. "Hey Tsunade, give him some air, will ya?" Tsunade released Arashi from her death grip. "Hey daddy, Tsunade taught me pity Kate," Arashi said with a smile. Jin grinned at his son, knowing that he'll get to see his son grow up and become as strong as him, or stronger. "Son, I have to go on a mission, so I need you to take care of your mother and the baby. Can you do that?" "Yeah daddy, I'm Stuon," exclaimed the little blonde as he was showing his hardly developed muscles. Jin chuckled. "That's my boy." "Daddy, will you be okay?" Arashi asked innocently. "Yeah, you know why," Jin said as he looked at Arashi straight in the eye with a grin. "Why?" Arashi asked. "'Cause no one messes with your dad. Come here you." Jin grabbed hold of Arashi and gave him a playful noogie. Arashi tried to break free with all his strength but to no avail. Jin laughed as he let go of Arashi, gave him a fatherly hug. And with that Jin left to Konoha with a smile on his face. In the peaceful day Konoha, the Nidaime Hokage was working on some paperwork waiting for Jin to show up. Right on time, an Anbu poofed in the middle of his office. "Hokage-sama, Jin Kazama has returned." "Good, send him in." The Anbu bowed before poofing out of nowhere. A few minutes later Jin walked through the door and bowed. "You requested me, Hokage-sama," Jin said, still on his knee. "Yes Jin, I need you to do an S-rank assignment which only you can accomplish, Taikaimaru spoke in a serious tone. What is the assignment, Hokage-sama? Jin asked with a stern look. Taikaimaru pulled out a scroll that was sealed locked and a folder that said classified. There is an old weapons factory in the wastelands northeast of the Land of Fire. It was active during the First Great Shinobi War. It was home to a number of experiments from high-tech arsenals to biological warfare. The Naidame showed Jin pictures of the factory from the folder. It looked like a castle made completely out of aged rusty metal with old broken glass windows. Another picture showed remains of people who appeared to be used as test subjects for some sort of biological weapon. Oh my god? Jin looked up at Taikaimaru with a confused look. So what is that you want me to do? Let me finish first. The Naidame looked back at the scroll. It was a rogue factory that sold weapons to the highest bidder. After the war, we invaded the factory and destroyed all the weaponry. We searched through the factory and gathered as much information as we can for future reference. There was one place that we haven't been able to search nor enter, was a large door in the basement floor. Look at the last photo. Jin flipped a picture and saw a large silver door with a large red kanji for Katai, danger. So the mission? Jin asked. There have been abductions in the wasteland and we believe that whoever is doing it might be using the facility as his, her or their hideout. Your mission is a reconnaissance. You're to head to the facility and gather any information you can on the abductions. If you happen to encounter the enemy on your mission, you're to take the enemy down with extreme prejudice and save any possible survivors. Is that understood? Said the Naidame with a stern look. Hi, is there any questions you like to ask before you go? Yes sir, why have you ordered me to go on this mission? It seems like any Junin is qualified for this mission. Why do I have to go on the mission and just me? Taikaimaru sighed as he stared out the window with a grim look on his face. Jin saw his face and wondered to himself what might have happened there. The last time we gone there, we were all nearly killed. Even I was almost gone for. You know those biological weapons I told you about? Said the Naidame who was rubbing his temples. Yeah, the Naidame took a deep breath before continuing. There were these creatures. We believed them to be results of genetic experimentations. They were something else. They managed to take out nearly all 20 platoons. I thought that we killed them all, but after hearing the abductions near the wasteland, I'm starting to believe there's still some left. The second shuddered at the thought of the monsters. So, you're telling me that I'm going on a mission that supposedly might turn into a fight for my life mission, with mutants that nearly killed the Naidame Hokage? Jin said with plain tone. Yes, that a problem? You asshole. Jin, you're the only one capable of going. All the Junin here are far too weak for this mission and all the survivors were either crippled or retired afterwards. You should know well enough that you are even above my level. So that makes you the only one capable for the job, explained the Naidame. Understood, Jin confirmed with a bow. The Naidame raised the scroll in his hand and performed a hand seal. Kai, the seal on the scroll disappeared. Here is the scroll that shows the location of the factory and the map of the inside. You will have 6 days to complete the mission. If you do not come back in 6 or less days, you will be declared a missing nin. Understood, responded Jin. Excellent, you are dismissed. Jin headed toward the door and stopped and turned around. Naidame-sama, when I come back, I would like to retire as a shinobi. Taikaimaru looked slightly surprised but quickly hid it. And what brought this up? Taikaimaru asked. I just want to be there for my family, Jin simply replied. Alright, just go to the factory and get the hell out of there, Taikaimaru sighed. Hi Hokage-sama. End flashback. Jin was still reminiscing until he felt a surge of pain coming from his seal. He winced in pain and clutched his arm, sensing something not right. Jin quickly got on his feet and ran. Naruto? Background music. Stand up from trapped, go to profile. The Naruto gang charged at Kakuzu from all around, throwing countless kunai and shuriken. Kakuzu just stood there as the projectiles either deflected or broke when they made contact. Naruto jumped and sent a vertical roundhouse kick but was blocked by Kakuzu's steel-enforced arm. Kakuzu attempted to uppercut him but Naruto caught the fist and used it to flip behind him. Taka flashed in front of him and spun rapidly, delivering hard blows to Kakuzu's head, torso and legs by his staff, only to be ineffective as Kakuzu grabbed the collar of his shirt and cocked a fist. Now you Kakuzu was cut off as he felt his arm held back and his neck and torso constricted by Naruto. Taka took advantage of the distraction and broke free from the Iron Man's grip. "Kanju, Fuka now," Taka called out. Kakuzu looked out in front of him and saw Kanju and Fuka running toward him. "Y'all ready?" Kanju said to Fuka. "Go for it," Fuka replied. Kanju jumped on Fuka's shoulders as Fuka raised his fist as if he was ready for a punch. Kanju immediately jumped on Fuka's fist with his sword pointing at Kakuzu. "All you dog breath," Fuka said as thrust all his strength into firing Kanju like a high-speed cannon. Kanju's sword can pierce through anything when it has enough force, Naruto thought to himself as Kanju got closer and closer. Kanju is now less than 6 feet from Kakuzu. All Kakuzu did was smirk under his mask. Without a single warning, Kakuzu's forearm detached from the rest of his body, only connected by a black thread. Kanju's blade was inches away from Kakuzu until he was halted by an iron grip around his neck. Now the other nuisance. Kakuzu's other arm detached and swerved behind him and grabbed Naruto by the head. "Shit!" Kanju yelled as he jerked with great force, sending him 50 yards away, hitting the remains of the stage. Naruto was head-butted by the back of Kakuzu's head, then slammed hard on the ground and flung away, hitting the damaged beach and skipping like a stone on water before landing hard on the watery shore, which was slightly turning red due to Naruto's blood. "Two down," Kakuzu said within a plain tone. "You asshole!" yelled an enraged Fuka as he and Taka charged. Kakuzu was enjoying tormenting his victims but decided it's time to end it. All he just wants now are his bounty's heads and collect his cash. "Now I'll end this game. You all have been fun." Kakuzu began to laugh as he began detaching himself, revealing hundreds of black threads coming out of everywhere. The two fighters froze completely as they stared at the being that was anything but human. "Hee hee 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 ha 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 ha." The creature laughed as they stared with utter shock. Deidara laughed as he stared at the large crater created by his art. "Art is a bang," Deidara said as he was about to watch the others fight. He was cut off by a group of bugs quickly covering the arm of his robe. "Huh?" Shino on cue emerged from the ground whispering something that can only be heard by him. "Feast." Countless bugs began flying all around Deidara and began closing in. Deidara, much to his displeasure, was being drained of charka by thousands of destruction bugs. Fry. Deidara's body began to bloat into a grotesque size. Moments later he exploded into flames, scorching the insects to ashes, making the scene look like a black cloud that was spewing out sparks. The rest of the gang emerged from their underground hideout, scanning the area for any signs of their opponent. "Was that a kamikaze?" Choji questioned. "I doubt it," Shikamaru answered. "He trying to elude us, making us believe that he commit suicide at least for a short time, either to run away or buy time. Surely to buy time, and since he's not in the sky he's—" "Everybody, get away from here now," Shikamaru yelled as he dashed out of the area with the rest behind him. They ran about 50 feet before a large explosion erupted from the ground from where they once stood. The whole beach was covered in dust, dropping vision down 70 in the whole battlefield. "Damn, missed again." The Ino look-alike said as he emerged from the center of the explosion. "I better be more serious, they're no ordinary shinobi." Deidara reached into his pocket and ate another handful of clay with his hand mouths. "I never thought I had to use my third strongest." Sasori had just swapped Kiba and Akamaru with his tail before noticing that the area around him was nearly covered in dust, blocking almost all of his vision. "Deidara," growled Sasori as his temper began rise. The shinobi took this advantage and remained silent for what seemed like forever, not making a single sound. Hinata, who was a Hyuga, was not affected by the predicament thanks to her Byakugan. Using her supervision to easily find Sasori, who had trouble with the dust, she grabbed a few kunai that were tied to explosion and threw them after activating the tags. Hinata saw the shuriken hit their mark and exploded, only to be fooled as the target formed to sand. "Gotcha!" announced Sasori as he jumped out of the sand from behind and sent his tail slithering towards Hinata. Hinata smirked as Guy appeared in a flash. "Konoha senpu." Guy kicked the tail with so much force that the tail shattered into pieces. Sasori was surprised to see his tail destroyed as if it were plastic. It was too late for him when he finally noticed Sakura dashed in front of him with a hard uppercut, sending him in the sky. "Tamari, Sasuke." Sakura called out. Temari and Sasuke flashed under Sasori. Kamaitaichi no Jutsu. Temari hurled her massive fan, creating powerful gusts of wind that sliced the puppet master into slices of wood that was perfect for a hungry fireball jutsu. Gokakyu no Jutsu. With a large gasp of air, he released a fireball the size of a car flying towards the mutilated Sasori. It appeared that they were victorious but were alarmed when an object came out of the puppet master's body as it was set ablaze. The area began to clear and the figure landed 10 meters away from the group. He wore a black cloak with a hood and looked more human than Sasori. He chuckled as he took of the hood, revealing a man who appears to be in his late 20s. "Who the hell are you?" demanded Anko. The man reached in his sleeve. He looked up at the group with a plain look. "I am Sasori of the Red Sand," he announced as he pulled out a scroll. "And I'm done playing games." He placed the scroll on the ground, let it roll to the end. Kachiyose no Jutsu. In a large poof, a barrage of puppets appeared in a matter of seconds. 101 in total, specializing every form of attacks and unique in their own way. Sasori tore off his cloak, revealing his puppet-like body connecting to the puppets by countless chakra strings attached to his chest. The only one he was controlling by hand was something that Temari thought she would never see in her lifetime. The third case cage? What? Sasuke questioned. He was the strongest out of all the case cages. He vanished 20 years ago, but I was told he was killed, Temari answered while still trying to gather the information in front of her. Sasori interrupted. He was, by me, and now he's part of my collection. The fight was far from over. Abandoned village. The village was a wasteland. Buildings were half standing, there were scars showing that a battle took place long ago, and skeletons of shinobi and civilians. The Akatsuki leader was sitting Indian style on a statue of a deity of some sort in the middle of the village that former locals worshipped, letting the cool rain that was lightly hitting him deep in his mediation. "Looks like Hidan lost his match, that's what he gets for getting too confident," the leader muttered to himself. He knew Hidan would be the first since he was the weakest of Akatsuki. His thoughts were interrupted when a giant green fly-trap creature walked towards the statue. "Report Zetsu," he ordered with no sign of emotions in his voice. "Kisame-san has obtained the Ichibi. Itachi-san and Takehana-san are taking a while longer though," Zetsu's white half exclaimed. "Typical, the Ichibi Jinchuriki was a mere child, the others are high-rank shinobi." "Leader, may I ask you something?" said Zetsu's black half. "What is it? Why do we need the Sanbi, Itutsubi, Hachibi and the Kyubi Jinchuriki alive? Don't we need them to open the gate too?" The leader opened his eyes and shifted his gaze to Zetsu, which made the former grass nin rather uncomfortable by his cold gaze. "Zetsu, you, Itachi, Takehana and Kisame are the only ones I consider trustworthy about knowing that I'm part of the Saishukukendachi, while the others believe that our goal is world domination. The true goal is cleanse the world. We need the tailed beasts, also known as the Kyutensho, to create and open the gate. The Ichibi, Nibi, Shibi, Rokubi and Shichibi are needed to create the gate, while the Sanbi, Itutsubi, Hachibi and Kyubi are needed to open the gate, and when that happens, the true king will cleanse this world. Why don't we abduct them now?" the white half of Zetsu asked. "That is all I'm saying, this discussion is over. Continue your surveillance," commanded the cold being. "Hi," as Zetsu took his leave as the mighty leader went back into deep meditation.
That's all for now. If you enjoy this video, then please like, share and do comments.